Hey guys, good afternoon. This is Tom Kelly from the BeeSafe Lawn Care Dealer Network. Today I'm posting our BeeSafe conference call from Thursday, January 3rd, which was a really cool call. We had more than 30 people on it, so we got a lot done, talked about a lot of cool things. We're always going to talk about planning, marketing, and product, really in that order this time of year, and it's really the first week of the year, so it's time for you to put last year behind you and think about making sales, putting together planning process, and exactly what you're going to do for your customers in 2013. First part of the call revolved around planning. So we took a basic planner from customer count, projected sales, cancels, and then revenue per customer and gross sales. We then took those numbers, put them into a basic P&L projection, and from there we worked on a cash flow analysis. So as always, we want to talk about making sure we're charting out exactly where we want to go. And this time of year, you need to work on wrapping that up. You need to finish your projections and your marketing plan so you can begin to actually make sales to make it happen. Because lots of guys in the South are going to need to be ordering products soon and getting started, we did a good portion of the call on round one product. So if you're in the South and you're almost ready to get going, we wanted to review those products, and it never hurts to review them for transition and cool season turf grass areas too. So we're off to a great start. I'm really glad we had a good call. The volume on this call kind of stinks a little bit, so you might need to turn it up, and I'll adjust that when we record next week's call. So thanks again. Happy New Year, and we're going to be off to a great start.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. Welcome to our conference call. I'm just getting set up here. I'm opening the screen. I mean the question screen. You guys are already being followed with me. Thank you. I love it. Frank, I'm fired up too, buddy. This is awesome. I got to tell you, yesterday I wore a plaid shirt. And I'm one for wearing plaid shirts and flannel shirts anyways, because I'm a redneck from New Hampshire. But the shirt I wore yesterday, believe it or not, was the shirt I wore on my very first day of lawn care in my life in 1993. For some reason, this is kind of scary, but I still have the same shirt that I remember buying for my first day at Barefoot Grass Lawn Service, because my boss told me that I needed to wear I am bragging about it, right. I needed to wear a collared shirt tucked in with work boots in it. I went out and I had to buy a couple of shirts. It was a plaid sort of work shirt. And it was August or September of 1993. And the reason I wore it is because I'm as fired up, and I'm using your words, Frank, I'm as fired up about lawn care this year as I have been at any other time in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. Maybe I was probably pretty fired up in my younger days, but I think we're going to have a really, really good year. We've got an unbelievable group of companies. We just came off a really good fall where we brought on a good amount of new dealers. We're really making progress. We're becoming nationally known, and there's power in numbers, and we're getting some significant numbers. So I'm really excited. My point is that I whipped out the 20-year-old plaid shirt, and I don't know why on earth it's still in my closet, because I've probably moved 4 or 5 times since then. I don't wear it very often, but it was my symbolic way of saying, yeah, baby, Frank, I'm fired up. Let's do this. We're going to have an awesome year, and I'm really excited. So I hope you guys had a good Christmas, good holidays. Welcome back. This was always, for me, the time where I put last year behind me. Time off was over, and bring it on. It's time to make it happen. Time to make some sales, basically, is what it's all about. So welcome to today's call. We have a ton of people on, which is awesome. I'm pretty psyched about that. We got right now 28 people on. So a couple of, as usual, housekeeping issues. I can't open up the lines with 28 people on, so I get to sit here and ramble for an hour. If you have any questions at all, type them into the question module on the GoToWebinar thing you got there on your screen, and I will answer them. If I don't answer it, it's because I'm probably planning on answering it. And many of you have taken to typing in profanities in there, which is fine with me too. I'm just not going to acknowledge you because I think you're sophomoric. So we'll get going here. On the agenda, welcome new dealers. Last week's call, lack of. If this agenda looks familiar, it's similar to the one we had the other day. I want to talk about Universal Studios real quick. We're going to spend a lot of time, or half of the call, on continuing the planning and budgeting process, because so many of you guys have asked me to send you templates and to have you know, a conversation or a one-on-one about the planning process of running your lawn care business. And most of you know that I think that is as important, if not more important, than everything else that you do, whether it's your products, your cool trucks, your neat logos, your hardworking people. Everything you know, you've got isn't worth a dime unless you're planning and budgeting and implementing properly. Plan, implement, adjust. Analyze, plan, implement, adjust. And if you follow those 4 steps, you'll be successful. We're also going to talk about round 1 products today, and we'll spend about half the call talking about those issues too, those particular products. Because believe it or not, we're ready to go. It's time to start talking about ordering products, getting your planning in place, your budgeting in place. And for those of you guys down south, it's not too far away, so we'll talk about some of those things too. I left this group up on the PowerPoint because these are some of the companies that we've brought on in the last 6 weeks, actually 8 weeks, November and December. We haven't brought on a new dealer since the last call we had. We're currently at 61 locations with 61 companies as members of the network. Our goal here is to be at 75, to have the network grow to 75 companies or locations by March 1st. And they're harder to bring on now this time of year because, as you guys know, you're busy. You've done a lot of your planning. You're ready to go. Yeah, I can. There you go. As you know, you're working on making sales, and most of your planning is already done. So we've got a lot of good companies in our pipeline to hopefully bring on, but it's more difficult in January and February. So I wanted to mention to you guys, we want to get to 75. We've still got a ways to go. If any of you guys have any friends or acquaintances or companies that you kind of network with that that may be interested in joining our network, I'm asking you to refer them to us, and we'll go as far as giving you a finder's fee, maybe 10% of the dealer fee that they pay, which I mean is a significant amount. You guys all know you've made an investment to be here, so I'm kind of pulling out all the stops to try to get to that 75. That was a personal goal and a company goal to get there, and I'm pretty sure we'll get there. But I'm asking if there's any acquaintances or other companies that you network with. Probably not your competition because you don't want to. You're probably not on the best of terms with your competition. But if there's anybody that you've met through Planet or any of the other state associations or anything like that, feel free to refer them to us, and we'll help you out. Keith, am I ready to go now? I'm glad you're on too, by the way, Keith. Okay, thanks. Here we go. Let's go. As I said, we want to get to 75 by the 1st of March. It's going to be a stretch. If we get there, we'll just barely get there. So, again, if you want to refer somebody to us, I'd be thrilled. That would be really, really cool. Okay, Universal Studios, real quick. You guys have heard me brag about Universal in the past. Carl, the answer to your question is yes. I've been recording these and posting them at yourlawnbusiness.com, and I am recording them right now. So, I mean, good question, Carl, because I typically plan on going for about an hour. I think last time I went for like an hour and a half. Somebody mentioned that I can be long-winded. at times, and with you guys asking questions, I could probably talk all day, and we certainly don't want to do that. So I want to try to keep it to an hour. But if you have to jump off, I mean, I know you guys are busy. You got lots of stuff going on. If you have to jump off, I post a recorded version of this at yourlawnbusiness.com, and you can watch it there. So, and there's all the previous calls as well. And I put up a couple of the webinars that we did last year. We did a bunch of winter webinars as a marketing tool to try to bring, to generate leads. And actually, they were really good. There was a marketing one we've talked about. There's a fertilizer inputs one. We call them lawn care in the 21st century. And they turned out pretty good. So I posted a couple of them, and I'll post the other ones too. So if you need to jump off, I mean, you're certainly not going to offend me. We hit 30 people. There's 30 people on the call here, and I know you got stuff to do. So if you need to jump off, you can watch the recorded version. So I want to talk about Universal, because I worked pretty hard with this guy Wayne Prudhomme down at Universal Studios to help them convert. No, I shouldn't say convert, because they were already trying to go organic. And Wayne is I guess his title is Pest Management Supervisor, Universal Studios. So, but he's in charge of the grounds at Universal Studios down there, and it was his personal choice, a personal decision to go, chemical free in the theme park and throughout the entire, I guess, campus or park, for personal reasons. He just didn't think it was appropriate to use a lot of chemicals because of all the kids that were running around. And I went down and visited them last winter, and they were so cool. They gave me a really awesome tour of the whole place. I took the kids down, and they let us in for free. We had a really good time. But I spent the day with Wayne, and we talked about all of the issues that they were facing, mostly Bermuda grass and St. Augustine grass, really sandy soil, everything that you guys deal with down there, Keith, you especially. And we put together a good program for them. That was it was a little bit tweaked, a little bit from a standard, warm season turf grass program. And I worked with him over the course of the year. But he just sent me an email yesterday, and I thought I'd bring it up. It says, "Hello, Tom. I hope you had a great Christmas and Happy New Year. We had great results with the turf products. We'd like to do 20 acres, but we'll have to order in increments by treatment. So I need prices, blah blah blah." But I really think this is important because this is a high-profile place. I mean, most of you guys have been to Universal Studios before. They do a good job keeping the place up. What's the area there with the globe? I'm drawing a blank with what they call that area there. The Riverwalk, I think it's called. It's really nice, and they really implemented our program specifically or exactly the way we drew it up for what they were faced with, and had great results. So I like sharing these kind of success stories because it really validates what we're doing, and it's something that I think you should feel comfortable sharing too. So many people go to Universal down there that it's definitely a good, people know it. So talk about it. I think it's pretty cool. I'm excited. It makes us kind of proud that what we're doing is working out. And they are strict organic too, 100% organic. They don't use a chemical fertilizer or a pesticide on anything. They did some tree and shrub work too. It's cool. They go to work at 2 o'clock in the morning and work until 10 in the morning. So they're hanging around the park overnight. So I wanted to do more planning. We worked on. Okay, before I get to that, Chris, what's up, buddy? I got your email the other day. I'm glad we went back and forth. Are they displaying the BeeSafe products used? Good question. When I asked if we could use them as as a testimonial, or if they could they could mention it at all, I talked to Wayne, and I said, hey man, can we break this out and use it on an official basis? And he referred me to the lawyers. He referred me to the attorneys. So the answer to your question is basically no, because it's a big deal. You can't start throwing that stuff around. I guess I never really did call the attorneys, but I can't imagine it would be a real fun process to kind of announce that we're the official lawn care provider of Universal Studios. So I don't think they're displaying it anywhere. I'll talk to Wayne too. Maybe something's changed, but it's not as public as we'd like it to be. We should probably look into seeing if we can make it more public. Exactly, Scott. I won't repeat that, but it's pretty, well, the difference between seagulls and lawyers, removable wingtips. Good one. So I want to talk about these planning, budgeting and planning a little bit, because at this time of year, it's really the most important part of what we do. And we'll also talk about products. Oh, no, look, I got to go like this. Excuse my screen here. I want to go through this with you guys. And what I'm basically going to do is go through this entire exercise, and I'm going to post these worksheets so that you guys can use them as well. If I sound like a broken record, it's because I am. You need to do this. You need to go through the process, and most of you, or some of you do. You need to know what your plans are, and you need to implement these plans to make your goals happen. It's just so important. So a couple of real basic spreadsheets can go a long way. And you've seen me break out this little exercise a couple of times. I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to go through this basic worksheet, beginning count. We'll get our revenue. This is a P&L, a projection, a budget. We'll go through this whole thing. Some of you are probably grinding your teeth saying, ugh. But I'm going to go fast. And then I'll post it somewhere where you can literally plug in your own numbers and come up with your own projections. We're not going to talk about marketing. We're not going to do our marketing plan today. We're going to do basically financial planning. And the attendee list is dropping. People are bailing out. But I'm going to force it. It's something that I really, you need to do it. So let's. I'm gonna run through this. Any questions? Stop me. Ask the question, and I'll stop and I'll answer it. We'll go back up here. Very simple worksheet. Beginning count. On January 1st, how many customers do you have? Whether you've got software that can tell you this, you're doing it on manila folders and index cards, whether you use Real Green, Service Autopilot, you just do it through QuickBooks. You need to know how many customers you have today. And we'll call this today January 1st. This particular budget I just picked out of, I've got a bunch of these. This was a version of a lawn dog branch that I modified a little bit to kind of fit to what we were doing. But 1,500 customers first. Your beginning count, 1,500 customers. This is literally how many customers I have right now. Somebody's asking if I can do product first. I'm going to go pretty quickly through this, and then I'll post it so you can fill it out as well. 1,500 customers today. How many cancels are you going to take? You need to know your cancel. You need to know your cancel percentage. The way you're going to find that is take the number of cancels you took last year and get a percentage of your total customer count. So of your total customer count, how many customers canceled? The way to do that is take your cancels divided by current customer count plus cancels. So the total number of customers throughout the entire year divided by the number of cancels will give you your percent. In this case, 15%, 308 cancels. The way I got that is because before I did that math, I figured out how many sales I want to make. If I want to make 550 sales, and I start with 1,500, 1,500 plus 550, 2,050 times 15% is 308. You should expect to take 308 cancels from today to June 1st. Everything we do with planning right now is to June 1st, the halfway point of the year. And then you'll take some more over the course of the next 6 months. But most of all of your operational numbers and changes and fluctuations are all going to happen between today and June 1st. If you can get to June 1st, you can get all the way. We want to make 550 sales. So we take those cancels, we take our beginning count. We're going to have on June 1st a new count of 1,742 customers. We need to know what our revenue per customer is. And you've heard me say this before. Your revenue per customer is your round revenue, right here, your lawn care revenue, your round revenue, divided by the number of customers that you have, based on last year's numbers. So take your gross sales, and I don't want you to take optional services. I don't want you to take these. I want you to take your gross sales from round revenue only, divide it by the number of customers that you have to get your revenue per customer. I took 399. I don't know if this works out exactly here. I can look. Maybe it does. Yeah, it does. Your revenue per customer is $399 per customer, round revenue. This would be relatively small lawns. This was probably our Nashua, New Hampshire market, where the average lawn size is like an 8, something like that. So now I take my new count and I multiply it by my revenue per customer to get our lawn care revenue, $695,000, 58 cents. Our optionals. The way I always plan for optionals is I take this percent. These percents here are literal. They're historical data that over the years I've kind of figured out. If you're going to do spring aerations, 0.85% of this number is what you should budget for spring aerations. Lime, or if you're going the other way, to actually raise pH, lower pH rather, 2.5% of your gross sales will end up being pH adjustment. So 17,376. Ant, flea, and tick. You should always offer an ant, flea, and tick control treatment. And again, depending on where you are in the country, your services could be slightly different. I only added a few here. Ant, flea, and tick, customers love it. 3.25% of $695 will get me $22,589. Aeration and seed. You should be aerating and seeding like crazy. You make a lot of money doing that. 4.15% to get $28,000. Grub control for us in the Northeast was huge. Was absolutely huge. And it could be a different service around different parts of the country, but grub control was a big deal for us because people were very, very much afraid of grub damage. 13%. We sold a lot of preventative grub control to get $90,000. So what I do is I take my lawn care round revenue, I add it to all of my optionals to get my gross sales of $860,131. You should plan on 4% allowances. And what I mean by that, prepaid discounts, bad debts, write-offs, and other discounts like free lime, stuff, anything you use to sign somebody up. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's 4%. You probably could get it less than that, but typically, I would budget 4%. That's money that you're not going to get net sales of $793,000. So I got a couple questions here. I'm gonna answer them. How do we come up with round revenue if we've never done lawn care before? Dave, the way you're gonna try to figure that out is you might have to do a little bit of research. Find out what your average lawn size is, and I don't know what yours would be. Yeah, you could probably do it from your maintenance accounts, everything that you've already got in place. Whatever your average lawn size is, then you're going to take your price list, and if you don't have a price list worked out yet, I've got a suggested one. I think you probably have that. Take your average lawn size, go to that on your on your price list. That's what your revenue per customer is going to be. So if your average lawn size is an 8, go to your annual cost for an 8,000 square foot lawn. Whatever that number is what you'll use for budgeting. Keith, what product are we using for ant, flea, and tick? I would use a cedar oil for ant, flea, and tick control. I love cedar oil. It works great. Works really good for surface insects. Cedar oil is going to control any surface insect really, really well. Chris, I'm glad you said that. Chris Paul says, it worked great for us. We made a fortune. People love the flea and tick control treatments. And what I used to do is I'd offer 3 of them at a minimum. I mean, if somebody wanted 1 or 2, we'd do that too. But we do like a program for 3 treatments about every 6 weeks or something like that. We'd start at round 2. We do A1 with round 2. We do A2 with round 3. We do A3 with round 4. So it's basically a summertime treatment. If people want more, give them more. But you can do 3 treatments over the course of the summer, and extended markets do more. Cedar oil. What about grubs? Good question. There are lots of different options for grubs. You could use cedar oil as a preventative for grubs. You could use beneficial nematodes for grub control. We're working on a couple other products and have been for a couple of years. It's kind of tricky with because we don't want to call them a pesticide because you have to go through the whole EPA exemption thing, but some microbial products. Neem oil. It's a product called Azasol, A-Z-A-S-O-L, which is a water-soluble neem oil, which is going to work great. Here's the thing with preventative grub control and organics. It's not going to act technically as a preventative, so the timing is important. A chemical preventative grub control treatment is systemic in that it's going to become part of the tissue of the grass. It's going to be part of the root system, part of the blades. So when the insect feeds on it, it dies. In organic grub control, the timing is important because you're going to need to apply it when the grubs are actually feeding, because it's going to act, technically speaking, as a curative. You're going to put it down and you're going to kill the grubs that way. And is cedar oil safe for recovery of soil biology? Cedar oil will affect your soil biology, but it will not wipe it out. It will affect it a little bit, but it's not going to wipe it out, especially at that time in the year, and you've already done a couple, 3, 4 treatments of inoculants or biologically enhanced products. Your soil biology is going to be humming right along. If you do have a concern with that, the beneficial nematodes work really well. That's a good question too. After 3 apps, how much damage will we cause? I don't think enough to make a big difference. Nothing that you're going to be able to not repopulate. Let me look into that a little bit more. For the most part, the cedar oil is going to bind pretty closely to the surface, so it's not going to leach out. It's not going to leach through. It's going to stay in the thatch layer. It's not going to get too far into the soil. So I've been back and forth over this probably 100 times. I'm not afraid of the cedar oil damaging the soil biology. I've seen nothing that's going to tell me that that's the case. Based on the mode of action and just reading and thinking technically about it, it will affect it. I don't think it's going to wipe it out. I've seen nothing to indicate that it's going to have a real negative effect on it. Good questions, though. Really good questions. Grub control, again, cedar oil, nematodes, neem oil. We always go way back and forth about the chemical grub preventative that has no label. Help me out with the name of it. Somebody. Celiprin. We go back and forth with it whether or not a Celiprin is acceptable or not. To me, right now, it's not. Celiprin is not acceptable organically, but it's an option for you. We'll try to continue to get some clarity on that. Keith hates. What's up, buddy? Keith says we've used the NPP product. That's the cedar oil that you get at Lesco. Is that right, Keith? No. The NPP product, cedar oil. What is that, Keith? Oh, is that the compost T123 ICT? Yeah, the ICT organics. Cedar. Yep, that's. You know what? I think that company is private labeling the same product from a company called Cedarside. So they're going to get mad at me for saying that. Go to cedarside.com, and I think you're going to get a better price. It's the same product. Lesco this year also carried a cedar oil product that was pretty good. Lots of questions coming in here. A good point. It is a minimum risk pesticide. Something like cedar oil is something that you're going to, it's an EPA exempt in most cases, but in most states you're going to continue to need a license to apply it. Does treating for grub control with cedar oil require a much higher concentration or volume? The rate is higher because it needs to get down through the thatch and into the soil. You're right, Carl. So the rate itself is higher. The concentration is not higher. Just the rate at which you apply it is higher. So that's a good point. And kind of as we're talking this through, when we talk about soil biology and the way that cedar oil may affect it, at a higher rate to get it down into the soil to kill grubs, it will have more of a negative effect on soil biology than using it for a surface insect control. I still don't think it's going to create a situation where you're going to wipe out everything that you've tried to accomplish. I think you're okay with that. We had some pretty good results with cedar oil and grub control too. With all that being said, after a couple years or even after 1 year using these kind of products, where you're getting the whole soil food web in order, where everything kind of gets back to the way it was or supposed to be, you're going to have far fewer insect damage issues. They're still going to be there, but everything is kind of operating sensibly. And the turf root density is much stronger. Root depth is much stronger. When the soil is good, the root system's happy, and yeah, there's going to be grubs there, and they're going to feed on the roots. They just aren't going to do as much damage. I mean, you're never going to eradicate insects. Sometimes I don't think it's a good idea that we're eradicating insects altogether. Keith says that is not cedar oil. The NPP 123 is not cedar oil. Okay, then I'm thinking of something different. So I'm going to stop talking about it because I'm sounding like an ass. Here's a good point. What we noticed is since we were not putting insecticides down, our natural predators were still around. We did surface only for the ant, flea, and tick, and we had no grub issues. Chris, that's what I was just trying to say. However, you've seen me or heard me talk about this often. If people want to buy preventative grub control, I want you to sell it to them. And we don't make a preventative grub. I'm not trying to sell product here. I think that it's important for people's state of mind that if they're accustomed to or used to paying, the chemical lawn care service company to do a preventative grub control treatment because they've just beat it into their head over the last few years, don't change it up. We don't want to make it seem different or weird. Continue to offer it, and it can be a great revenue generator, and it can make people feel comfort. The fear of grubs, at least up here, and I'm sure down there in Jersey with you guys too, and you guys actually had a bad grub year, I think, last year. It's crazy. People panic over it. They don't even know what to do. So you need to give them that peace of mind. If your soil biology is humming along and working right, and it's not going to be damaging, that's all great because you won't have to deal with grub damage. But if they feel comfortable buying a preventative grub control treatment, there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. And something like nematodes would be a great product to use if you're expecting less pressure. Keith says this product we were talking about is a garlic base that works well for mosquitoes. That's awesome. Yeah, I used some garlic stuff too in my backyard for mosquitoes, and it worked really well. It just stunk really bad. We're still trying to put together a mosquito program, and we're looking at a bunch of products, maybe a combination of cedar oil and garlic. That's another service that people go crazy over. So, all right. So this is what's awesome about these calls, because even though we want to kind of continue with this planning, we're really hashing out a lot of cool stuff. This is one of my favorite things about these calls. It kind of bugs me that I can't hear you guys yelling at me, but it is what it is. Keith, I agree with that, but I'm not going to say it. It smells gross too. He's making a cedar garlic oil joke. So back to this. What we've done here is we've determined what our gross sales are going to be and what our net sales are going to be. You have to plan on writing something off. You want to put in prepaid discounts. You're not going to collect every dollar of the gross sales that you do. Okay? So here's where we're going to translate this to a P&L situation. and I certainly won't go into a lot of detail of this. If you want to ask me questions about it, do it. But this is an exercise you've got to do. You put your program sales, which is your round revenue. I think this worksheet is actually, the formulas are all active. So if you make a change up here, it's going to make it down here as well. You put your round sales, your program sales. You put your special sales here. It's going to give you your gross sales for the year. You got your 4% here, prepaid discounts, whether you're doing renewals or new sales. The prepaid discount is a convenience that customers love. Most of them do it for convenience, not necessarily to save money. So offer 10% if you're renewing, drop it down to 7, even 5 in season. You don't want to give away too much because you don't want to give it away. In this case, I don't have anything in bad debts, but you guys know you're going to write something off every year. Somebody's going to move or not pay or not be satisfied or tell you to pound sand. You got to plan for it. Price adjustments and discounts. How about at the end of the year when you're going to do something like, hey, if you let me aerate the lawn, I'll seed this area for free, or come on, just sign up, I'll give you a free lime. Those kind of things. Discounts and price adjustments. Don't just do them for nothing. Enter them in as a sale, and then discount them out. You want a good, true reading of what your gross sales are. You do a service. You want to report it as being done. Then you discount it out. So if you do a $50 limestone treatment for somebody for free, don't just do it and call it good. Enter it as a sale and then discount it out. So this is an accounting practice here. I'll go through this real quick. Statement fees, meaning somebody's over 30, net 30. You can charge them a fee for being late. Some of you guys are talking about only not doing billing. Billing people's credit cards directly, and I think that was a pretty good idea. That would help with some of these numbers. Your wages. What are you paying your production staff? Start at budgeting 18% of your gross sales to pay your guys on the road. And whether you're doing $20 million or $100,000, start at 18% of your gross sales. Take that number, and that's what you should pay your guys on the road, your girls on the road, your people on the road. And whether you want to keep people on year-round, you want to lay them off in the winter, whatever you want to do, don't exceed this number. If you can do better than that, that's great. We used to have guys who wanted to get laid off in the winter, and we'd save, but we'd usually budget to pay them year-round, 18% of your gross sales. Products and services. You guys hear me say 30, 33% a lot. I put 25% in here because I'm doing it as a percent of gross sales. But some of these sales don't require product, especially aeration. You're going to do quite a bit of aeration, and even though you're seeding, I mean, that's a product, but in aeration, there is no product. So I usually will put 25% in here for your product costs. This used to, in my budgets, this used to say chemicals. Products now. Probably shouldn't even say services. Products, what you're going to pay for products. Budget 25% of your gross sales. And then depreciation and all that kind of stuff, talk to your accountant. Trucks and equipment, this is the last main category of your cost of goods sold. Trucks and equipment, 13%. Talk to your accountant about how this hits your P&L, because it's not necessarily, when you start talking about depreciation and that kind of thing, we're lawn guys, not accountants, but 13% is a good number to put in here. So that's our cost of goods sold. That's our main expenses, gross profit. Again, this is all accounting type stuff. I used to have a category in here called management fees, and I thought it was still in here, but I don't see it. As a business owner, right? If you want to find a way to give yourself a bonus, or if you want to take some money out of the business, management fee is something that you could legally and accounting-wise put up here, different than salary, different than what you pay yourself, put it in cost of goods sold. A management fee is a good way for you to take money out of the business. We used to put it in there because we had multiple branches, and each branch would pay headquarters a management fee. That's how we did it accounting-wise. So our administrative expenses. This is something that you should take your previous historical data. What you spent last year, plug it directly in here. If there's going to be an increase, add it. But these are silly things, not silly, but cleaning, trash removal, your dumpster, property taxes, your rent, utilities, telephone, charitable donations, employee benefits. Do you offer your employees or yourself health insurance, vision insurance, recruiting, all this stuff? Again, I'm already long-winded. Postage, printing, right down to your lawyer, your accountant, travel and entertainment, uniforms, marketing. In this case, we budgeted $35,000 in marketing expenses, plus another $15,000 for wages and commissions. So a total really of $50,000 for marketing. What you pay either yourself or the manager, your administrative staff, these are the people working in the office, goes under administrative wages. Put a bonus in there, taxes and insurance. It's going to be different for everybody else, depending on where you are. In this particular case, we're profiting $11,000. Now, that's not a whole lot, but at least it's not losing money. So, it's important to know these numbers. Good question. The question is, what's the percentage from marketing? I know it depends on your budget. It really, really does. But up here, let's go up here again real quick. And I know we're already yes, Scott. I know we're already 40 minutes in. Long-winded. So I'm planning on making 550 sales, new customer sales, and my revenue per customer is $399. Now, old customers, your revenue per customer is probably going to be different than new customers because you're going to change your price list every year. But 500 times $399 is about $200,000. We budgeted $50,000 for marketing to make $200,000 in sales. That's 25%. That's a lot. That's a real lot. One way you can save on that, let's do the percent, not counting wages and commissions. I'm going to have to do the math again because I forgot. 550 times 399. 550 times 399. $219,000. And my marketing expense is $35,000. 16%. That's still also a lot. Blake, if you're saying yours about 15%, that's literally the number I just got. 15%. And I didn't use wages and commissions in that. I took my $35,000 and I used it for the amount of revenue I'm making in new sales. It came out to 15%. That's still pretty high. That's still pretty high. That's spending a lot of money on marketing. So that's going to come down to cash flow, because your P&L is very different than your cash flow. You can make $12,000 in a year. That's okay. That doesn't mean that there's going to be $12,000 left at the end of the year. I know I'm going way over, so I'm going to go through this quick. I think maybe we'll go through this again next week, spend a little bit more time on it, but I don't want to go a whole lot more than an hour. So your cash flow analysis. This is, again, you need to know this information because you need to know if you got enough money. When you ask, hey, you got any money? Most guys are like, I don't know. Use these percents for cash in, cash out, net, and cumulative. Cash in. This percent of your total cash is what's going to come in each month. 4% of this number. 4% of this number is what's going to come in January. So, this is last year's accounts receivable. This is new sales prepayments. You get up. This is in the Northeast too, by the way. This is in the Northeast. So it's going to be different in the South. It's going to be different all over the place. But this is a good starting point, and this is a good template for you to use. 5% in March, 8% in April. You're out on the road collecting money. It's going to be pretty steady over the course of the year. Look what happens in November and December. Should be your best cash flow months of the entire year because you're taking renewals. Cash out, 4%, 5%, 9%. April, product bills hit. A lot of other things come current, 11%. And it's standard pretty much at 8, 9% for the rest of the year. This doesn't necessarily add up to 100% of that number because some of last year's money is coming in this year, and some of this year's money is going to come in next year. Same thing with going out. Okay, so net with this particular budget, we better have $30,000, $31,000 in the bank somewhere, or in a line of credit, or put aside somewhere, because we're going to go negative $31,000 in March, negative $22,000 in April. This is not cumulative. This is net. Let me scratch that. I was incorrect. It's actually worse than that. This is cumulative. We better have a $60,000 line of credit because that's where we're going to be maxed out at. We're going to go negative $60,000 in April with this. So you either have to have this in the bank, or you have to have a good relationship with your bank with a line of credit, or you're going to have to juggle it somehow. If you don't, you need to make changes up here. You need to lay people off. You need to reduce your marketing costs. But as a business doing, I forget what gross sales were, as a business doing, $860,000, it's not crazy for you to be able to get a line of credit like this. It's how you grow your business. All right, so I could go on and on about this for for 2 days, and perhaps we'll revisit it again. And I noticed that lots of guys have jumped off. I've bored, lots 5. I've probably bored a lot of you, but you have to do this. You absolutely have to do it. Are there any questions before I get out of here? Before I lose any more of you? Okay. I'll post these. Maybe I'll post them at the Your Lawn Business site. Products. Actually, I don't need to. Yeah, I do. Products. The round 1 product is basically the same in every zone. So whether you're in the north or in the south or in a transition zone, what you are going to apply round 1 is basically the same. So if you're in the south, we don't want to ever apply fertilizer in January, February, even in, maybe getting into March. You need to follow the growth cycles of your turf. Everybody remembers at training that segment that Chip did with the graph about how your turf is going to grow. And warm season turf grasses grow in the summer. Cool season turf grasses grow in the spring, don't grow in the summer, and then grow in the fall. The trick is always to time your fertilizer applications with those growth periods. So in the springtime, early spring, round 1, there's no need to apply a fertilizer. What we're going to do is we're going to apply our kelp at 3/4 of an ounce per 1,000 square feet, and our Growth Activator Pro at 7 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Let's take a look at these labels. I brought up these labels, and most of you have seen these before. New guys, perhaps not. All of a sudden, a bunch of questions. I'm going to answer them right now. A couple of repeats too. How early can we begin to apply? You want to start round 1 as soon as you can. As soon as you can get out the door. I mean, look at the True Green guys. They're out scouting lawns to see when the snowbanks melt up here. I always used April 1st as the point where I would plan to do production. But how about last year where there was no snow, there was really no winter? We were out on the road the beginning of March. There's not one real perfect answer to that. Yeah, Blake, I know. you're going to start pretty soon. So that's why we're doing warm season first. And there's something else that's going to have to apply to you with what you're going to do for clay, and we're going to get to that. The question about soil temperatures being low. They rise very quickly. So when the snow melts, they're going to be pretty low. But then when springtime hits, your soil temperatures come up very quickly. So the biological activity in the soil is going to begin to come out of dormancy, in and around that range. It's always going to be timed with the seasonal change. As soon as the grass, begins to turn green and photosynthesis starts to occur, that's because the soil biology has begun to wake up, and root development is happening, top growth is happening. And it kind of happens pretty quick. I mean, you guys know, you go from everything is brown to everything is, greening up pretty quickly. So we don't need a fertilizer round one. We want to use the Growth Activator Pro. That's going to, the questions are fast and furious here, so I'm stuttering a little bit. Let me back up before I go on here. To answer the question, when can you start? There's not one specific answer to that. You start as soon as you can, because cash flow is important. You got to get out on the road. It's crazy how people, you can go from why are you so early to phone calls saying, why haven't you been here yet? Somebody's got to be first. Somebody's got to be last. You want to start as soon as you can, period. Can we mix the two? Yes, absolutely. You have to mix the two. You want to use the growth activator and the kelp in the same mix. You don't want to do the lawn twice. These are designed to act synergistically with each other, and you want to put them in the same tank. Soil temperatures, yes, that makes a difference, but I would never not treat lawns because I'm worried about soil temperatures. You got to get out there. You may have your rates down a little bit. The difference between agronomically correct and budget and cash flow correct. Sometimes there's a little bit of a divide there. You got to get out there. Operationally speaking, again, somebody's got to be first, somebody's got to be last. Good question about the liquid gluten, and there's so many different opinions on the liquid gluten. Keith, are you still on this call? Because you are. Oh, there you go. You just asked a question. Liquid corn gluten acting as a pre-emergent. It works pretty well, and Keith in New Jersey will attest to that. Keith was sending me pictures all year of his lawns, and I think you probably had some breakthrough later in the year, Keith, because you had a biblically bad year with heat and drought there. But I don't know if you want to answer this question. Did you maintain fairly good crabgrass pre-emergent control with that blanket app of liquid gluten? Another good point here. A couple of our other commercial properties and turf managers, a private school did a blanket application of the liquid gluten and was as happy as anybody. Keith's answer to my question was yes, just as good as any chemical control. So the liquid gluten does work. It's just so expensive. It's hard to get into your program. So I've always hated over-promising with crabgrass control because anything can happen. So it's hard to say, hey, I want you to pay more so I can do this, and then they go out and they mow it an inch, or you have horrible weather, and they get crabgrass, and your customer doesn't care about conditions. They just know that you told them that you were going to control crabgrass. So if it were me out there on the lawns, I would be concerned about the cost of the liquid gluten because it's a lot. But I'm also concerned with the control of crabgrass. What I would do is I would be selective, and I know it's not easy. It's not easy to treat some and not treat others. If you're equipped, with an extra tank, it's worth it to spot treat with the liquid gluten. I know most of you are not, so it's operationally not easy. I would spot treat hot spots, edges, thin areas with the gluten, and not, well-established shady areas, thick areas. It's just that Keith's asking what my opinion would be on whether or not he could drop it. I think you could probably not do a blanket app on every single lawn. I know the cost is outlandish. It's hard to, and it's not going down either. It was not a good year for corn, so the gluten cost is not going to go down. It's going to be a choice of yours as to whether or not, Keith, people are asking if you spread that cost out over the whole season, and I'm going to answer it for you. Yeah, I don't, Keith, you didn't like leave a bill for pre-emergent in the springtime. I think most of Keith's customers were on the premium program, so they were paying a good amount to begin with, and he spread it out over the course of the whole year. Yeah, we do sell the liquid gluten, Blake. We do. Yeah, I mean you've got a whole other situation down there too with your pre-emergent control, because you deal with a lot more weeds than most people, so it's even more complicated for you. But liquid gluten is a great product. It works well, completely organic. Now remember, there's no nitrogen in it. That's what makes it different than granular corn gluten, because there's no nitrogen in it. There's no growth contradiction. You're not forcing things to grow. You're basically using a liquid hydrolysate formula with no nitrogen. So it's more concentrated, it goes to work more quickly, and the stuff works. I just wish we could get it for cheaper. So the questions are continuing to go mad here. Let me back up a little bit. It's up to you as to whether or not you can drop it or not. I would experiment. I love to hear your results were really good, Keith. And yes, he did spread the cost out over the customer expectations are huge. The problem with that is because it's so subjective that, one customer might get 2 crabgrass plants and cancel because they think you're a failure. Whereas another customer might have 1 million crabgrass plants and say, hey, that's better than the last company. So it's just so difficult to pinpoint. We do sell the liquid gluten, Blake, yes. When should liquid corn gluten be applied in terms of before or after round 1, or does it matter? It should be applied with round 1. That's usually operationally the best time to do it. The timing's important because it has to be before crabgrass germinates. Now that's going to be at a certain soil temperature. The old wives' tale about the forsythia, when the forsythia is in bloom, that's the best time to apply it. When the forsythia has dropped its yellow leaves, it's too late. Now, some chemical pre-emergents offer a little bit of post-emergent control along with pre-emergent. There's not a good answer to that. It should be in the spring before crabgrass germination, and that's related to soil temperatures. So I would run it round 1. Somebody's got to be first, somebody's got to be last. It's not always going to be perfect. If you're getting out very, very early like we did last year, like the beginning of March, if you're getting out 2 weeks earlier than expected, don't run it then, because it'll run out of gas. Start running your liquid gluten when you would typically begin treating lawns. Any enigma either way, you need to make an adjustment. Here's a good question. Does the growth activator and the kelp go out as one liquid app, and the corn gluten need to be timed to coincide with the soil temperature to coincide with crabgrass germination? That's exactly kind of what we're talking about, Carl. If you've got 2 tanks, you can kind of do the spot treatment with the liquid gluten, but 1 mega mix is operationally the way to go. 1 mega mix, you put it all together. You don't want to start, messing around with trying to remember who got what and who did what. I always go by the calendar, not necessarily by the round, but springtime, in your case, April, Carl, is when that gluten's got to be put down. You can go into the first couple weeks of May, but generally speaking, April and the first part of May. If the last week of March, maybe the 3rd week of March, I'd run it. Anything prior to the middle of March, no. There's so many variables that go into crabgrass control that it's very, very, very difficult. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, Peter. What's going on, Peter? I haven't talked to you in a while. What about adios? Great, great question. Adios. I didn't even think of that. Thank you for reminding me of that. And I'm sitting here looking at a bucket of adios. This could be a big deal for the conversation that we're having right now. Adios is an EPA-exempt weed control. And Keith, you used it too. Keith actually was the one who kind of hooked me up with it, or told me about it. Adios is a brand new product. And the last year, Keith in Jersey messed around with it a little bit as a test. It is a selective post-emergent broadleaf and grassy weed control. So it's going to kill crabgrass. We all know what it's like to try to control a lot of crabgrass post-emergently, excuse me, but it gives you another tool. Gives you another tool to be able to, to answer your customers' concerns. So I tested it and it worked, and I know Keith used it too on crabgrass. It really worked. So I'm pretty excited. This Adios product could be a big deal for your crabgrass control issue. So it's going to be a judgment call by you guys as to what you want to do. Maybe experiment a little bit. Try some of the liquid gluten. Keep a hand can or backpack of Adios in the truck. Adios, again, selective post-emergent control for both broadleaf and grassy weeds. Okay, Blake. Needs to be applied no later than February 1st here in Texas. We start around 1, started too late. Yep, that, again, timing is different all over the place down in Texas. Keith, what are you talking about with being a nasty application? Which one was hard to handle? And he's also saying that the Adios works great, so good that he stopped using Fiesta. I know that the Adios does not. Yeah, I know it's thick. Okay, he's talking about the corn gluten. It's kind of thick and gooey and doesn't always stay in suspension as much as you'd like. So I agree with that. The Adios is not going to kill dandelions as well as Fiesta does. So I think I'd probably have both on my truck. For some reason, the Adios does not do well with dandelions. Well, we know Fiesta pretty much smokes it. But the results with Fiesta have been, kind of back and forth. The rate needs to be up a little bit. Does work, kills dandelions really well. I got a lot of questions here, guys, and hopefully I'm answering them all. So again, round 1, what we're going to do is we're going to Growth Activator Pro, 7 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Kelp concentrate at 3/4 of an ounce per 1,000 square feet. And the kelp is going to build up through the summer. Kelp's a biostimulant that's going to, as we go through the summer, we're going to increase the rates to continue to put through the plant growth hormones that are going to help with stress. That's the whole point with that. But the growth activator is all about these things right here. We want to jumpstart the soil biology. And the more we jumpstart it, the more the indigenous soil biology is going to amplify as well. So these species of bacteria and fungi are all there for a reason. And if anybody ever wants to talk about each one individual as to what they're there for, we can do that. But some of them are there for nitrogen fixation. Some of them are there to prevent disease. Some of them are there for root development. Some of them are there for to develop strength in the cuticle of the grass for stress. This consortium of biologicals are what we want to get down early in the year to prepare the soil and prepare the turf to actually head towards stress. That's what it's all about. Now, round 2, we'll start with some fertilizer and stuff. We won't get to that right now, but this consortium of bugs, as we call them, are very important. And when we combine that with the kelp in the same tank, we're working on preparing the turf for stress. So I'm at an hour, but I want to do a couple more things real quick here. 2 new products that are specific to certain areas of the country. And it's not in the north. So your northerners, sit tight or jump off. We have a new version of the growth activator or bioscience powder. We can make it either way. This is still not even released in the store or anything yet on the BeeSafe store. It's an amped up version of growth activator. Okay, so it's got everything growth activator has. It's got a bigger and more wide-ranging consortium of these bugs, and it's got monosilicic acid. This is all about preventing your humidity diseases. So it's going to certainly really, really help with stress. It's going to strengthen the cuticle of the plant itself a lot. So the stress is going to be minimized where stressful conditions are more so, in the south, in the heat. It's also going to, some of these particular species here are more designed for your patch diseases. Now, most of you guys will have seen your patch diseases minimized with the old growth activator. This will wipe them out. So this is for areas that are super humid, always very hot. And I won't read all these things here. You can read them. I'll post this as well. But we want to get this into your program early in the year, rounds 1, round 2. It's always going to help break down thatch. We saw this up in with the growth activator up in Scarborough, where we did multiple applications of the growth activator to quickly reduce the thatch so we could deal with grub control in a specific area where there was too much thatch. Cost is a little bit more, and it's not even up there yet. The cost is going to be a little bit more, but it's absolutely going to be worth it for, I can't see whether that's Keith Fox or Keith hates asking that question because it makes a difference. I think I should say Florida Keith or New Jersey Keith. Is that Florida Keith? It's going to be a little bit more. Oh, Jersey Keith. I know you deal with some patch diseases. I've heard you say that a lot. Did you still have a lot of those this year, Keith, or were you able to knock those back? If you're still dealing with them, this is something that you could build into the program. You'll notice that the rate is less too, because you want to do multiple applications. If you can do 1 and 2, that's going to be good. Well, the importance of round 1, picking the right product, is huge. You have to make sure that it's going to set the stage for the whole year. So I should mention here, Scott Spencer will be in touch with you. Keith, in your case, I wouldn't use it as an add-on. I would either replace the existing growth activator or do a little bit of both, but you want to watch your product costs. You don't want to get your product costs up too much. Maybe mix it a little bit, and we'll talk on an individual basis. But you're right on the edge where I don't know if you need to do this. This is more southern with super humid conditions, super stressful conditions. And again, Scott and I will talk to you guys, often about what the best choice is. But this would be, you would be right on the edge of you're kind of an experimental guy anyway, say, Keith. If you wanted to try it and see how much of a difference it makes, that would be cool. Have I been to New Jersey? No, I stay out of New Jersey. But compared to Georgia, the humidity and heat's very different. So this is something that, or Blake in Texas, this is a product that you're going to work into it. Secondly, Blake, this is what's going to also be in your round 1. It's a product called Turf Breather that is relatively new to deal specifically with your clay. I won't read all of this either. I think I forwarded you this as well, Blake. But we're going to build this right into round 1. So what we need to do is we need to get into the clay. We need to break it up. We need to get a place for the humic acid to begin to detoxify things and build organic matter. As we build organic matter, that's where the microorganisms are going to colonize. So this is going to solve your clay problem. I'm really psyched about this product too. For as many issues as you have with clay all the time, so this is going to be Atlanta. We've got a company in Atlanta, Texas, where you're going to deal with the clay. Even in parts of Ohio where it's clay, this is a great product to build into the program. So. Questions flying at me here. Up in Maine, nope. This isn't a product that you would want to use. I think we're dealing with some compacted soils up there, but I think we can solve them with other means. You could use it. I just don't think it's necessary. This is certainly, we're talking about hard pan clay, the exact opposite of sandy loam. We need to break up the clay, give the microorganisms a place to colonize, and then go to work. So we need to take specific action to make that happen. Blake we will definitely talk to you specifically about this, and I think we actually have a call later in the week to go over this. But if you're in the South and you're dealing with clay, this is a product we want to get in there, and then the Ultra product as well. Again, I want to emphasize we need to make sure that we have you do the right thing at the right time with round one, because it absolutely sets the stage for what you need to do. Everything is synergistic. What we do now plays a huge role in what's going to happen next. So let's make sure we get it right from the start. Any other questions, guys? I'm going to post this with some comments. A lot of the other stuff that we talked about, some of the planning stuff. That was a really awesome conversation when we started about different products, what to use for this, what to use for that, and we can definitely keep up with that. And is there, Keith? Do you have a lot of that? You have a lot of clay there. You might want to take a look at this product then too. Yeah, this is an awesome product. We just kind of invented this. I put on my white lab coat and thick glasses. How does round one affect new lawns? That's a good question. Hey, Tina. So I don't think I'd make a lot of changes with, hey, both of you guys? What's up, Kev? So if you've got a new lawn, define new lawn. And if anybody needs to jump off, we'll talk to you again next week. I'm going to be up in Canada next week at the trade show, but we're still going to do the call. I'll sneak out of there. So if a couple of guys are jumping off, no problem. So brand new installation. Okay, so brand new installation, new lawn, new soil, new seed. I wouldn't deviate a bit from what round one is. Round one, the growth activator and the kelp is as good as any starter fertilizer that you could put out there. The kelp is going to help with root development. The potassium is really going to help with the cell structure once the plant comes up. A lot of the humic acids and all of the microorganisms in the growth activator really going to help with root development. I would stay far away from any corn gluten application, because that's not going to do you any good with new seeds. So I wouldn't change a thing with round one with a new installation. Prepare for crabgrass, though. You guys know that. You're going to do an install in the spring. You're going to have to deal with crabgrass later on. Blake, the answer, yes, I've got it all squared away and ready to go over with you from spring to fall. And I think I put in my calendar a call, and I'd have to look. I don't remember exactly what it was. Scott will give you a call. Scott, can you give Blake a call, maybe even right now to verify schedule? Good question about training. Our next training, and anybody is always welcome to come up, is January 30. Is there 31 days in January? 30 days have September, April, June, and November. January 31st and February 1st. So it's the last day of January and the first day of February. We'd love for you guys to come up. Our trainings have gotten really good. We've had the last few have been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of great companies. We got a lot of good information. We go over a lot of great stuff. So we'd love to have you guys come up. Remember that, guys. Anytime you want to come up to training, please do. So we've got one scheduled at the end of this month, and there'll probably be one more before summertime. Awesome. That'd be so cool. We'd be happy to see you guys come up. Anything else, guys? Okay, we're going to pick this up next week. We'll go over that training, the planning stuff again. If anybody has any specific questions or something you want to cover regarding that, let me know. Maybe if we can focus in on one thing, I'll begin to work in some marketing planning with that too. We'll go over these products again, round one, but always appreciate you guys jumping on. We're excited. We're going to have a great year. If there's anything we can do to help, please let me know. For you guys who need to start production soon, Scott will give you a call if he hasn't already. We'll talk about what you need and how we're going to get it to you, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you again. Thanks.